Let's talk about progressions and transposing on the guitar. Really, any instrument. So what is transposing? Transposing is just moving a key scale, up or down. So example, if we're transposing G here, and we transpose it down 7 steps, that would be down to C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps on the chromatic scale down to C. So we transpose minus 7 steps to go from the key of G down to the key of C. So that is what transposing is. It's moving our original key up or down. This example happens to be down, but we can transpose our original key up or down to make it higher or lower. So why would you do that? Why transpose? We're lowering or increasing the notes you can sing a particular song. So if our range of our voice can't quite get to where we can sing those higher notes, we can't sing those higher notes in the key of G, well then we would want to transpose the key down some so that it brings it within the voice range and we can sing all of the notes in the C scale, which we may not be able to reach if we were playing in the G scale. A second reason for transposing would be that perhaps another key has chord shapes that we know. If we don't know the G chord shapes, or the F flat or the A sharp or some of these other keys, if we don't know those key shapes, chord shapes, then we can transpose to a key which we do know the chord shapes in order to play the song. So here's some common keys for the guitar. The chord of C, G, D, A, and F. And chord progressions can be used numbers. Typically or often guitarists will talk about progressions in terms of chords, numbers. So we could say it's a 1 chord to a 4 chord to a 5 chord. If that's the progression, a 1, 4, 5 progression. Well, in the key of C, a 1 chord would be a C, a 4 chord would be an F, and a 5 chord would be a G. So the progression would be C, F, G. If we're playing in the key of G, the 1 chord would be G, the 4 chord would be C, and the 5 chord would be D. So we can play that a 1, 4, 5 in the key of G as G, C, D. If we're playing in the key of F, it would be F, B flat, C. So we can use these 1, 4, 5 or these numbers of chords in the diatonic scale to indicate what the progressions are, and then we can play it in any key based on the 1, 4, 5 chord of that particular key. And that's a way that we can name the progressions and easily move between different keys using these 1, 4, 5 or these numbers rather than the actual chord names. So let's look at a keyboard on the guitar and standard tuning. So the standard tuning on a guitar is E, A, D, G, B, E. That's 5 steps between E and A, 5 steps between A and D, 5 steps between D and G, 4 steps from G to B, and then again 5 steps from B to E. That's a standard tuning. And if we play the C shape, which hopefully you're familiar enough with the guitar to be able to recognize this is the C shape on the guitar. The blue dots indicating where we're placing our fingers and playing that particular chord. So if we play as shown on the left, that is the C chord. But we can use something called a capo that actually presses all of the keys down and moves the key up by 1 step. So if I put a capo on fret 1 and play a C shape, I'm actually playing a C sharp chord. If I put the capo on the 2nd fret, I'm moving up again another step to D. If I put it on the 3rd fret, I'm moving up to D sharp and so forth. So I can play the same chord shape, but actually play different chords. If I'm on the 1st fret, I play C sharp, 2nd, D, D sharp, E, E sharp, F, F sharp, and so forth. Usually we don't use a capo beyond fret 5. Maybe we play 6 and 7 sometimes, depending. But instead, if we're going beyond 5, then we are generally changing to another chord shape. So if we look on the keyboard, and let's say we only knew how the chords in the key of C and the key of G. Well, to move from C to G, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 6 steps. So I can use the capo on fret 1 to go to C sharp, 2 for D, 3 D sharp, 4 E, 5 F, 6 F sharp, and finally I would get to G. So really, I can cover. That means that if I'm playing in C, I can cover all the way from C to F sharp. If I'm playing in G, I can cover all the keys from G to B using a capo. So I can cover all of the keys that I could possibly play in if I just use the C and G shape and move the capo somewhere between 0 and the 6th fret. If I know some more shapes, maybe I know the C, D, F, G, A shapes, so I know 5 of the 7 shapes, then I can move my capo only to fret 1 or 2, and I can play in every possible key. The actual key name probably isn't typically important if you're playing alone on the guitar and just accompanying yourself or accompanying a singer. You just move the capo up if you need to increase the pitch, or move the capo down. And if the capo is already at 0, already where you can't use a capo, then you need to transpose up to another key and use different shapes in order to transpose that particular song. Here's a capo summary for common guitar keys. So if I'm playing in the key of C and I don't have a capo, that I'm playing just regular C. If I use C shapes and fret 1, it's C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, and so forth, for all the different particular shapes and where I have my capo. So the capo increases the key by 1 note for each fret. There are at least 3 ways to transpose. We can transpose to a new key and play the new chord shape for that new key. And that's the most way that a professional musician might do this, where they move to the new key and play the new key shapes. But for someone especially who's starting out and you don't know all of the chord shapes, you might want to instead use option 2, which is to transpose to a key that you know the shapes, and then use a capo to increase the key by changing the fret where the capo is located until you get to the desired key. And you can use that table that I was just showing you a second ago to go ahead and do that. A third option, if you're singing, is to sing an octave lower than the chord you're playing. So that's 12 steps from the chord being played, 12 steps below. You may also transpose the key that's closer to the original, and then sing an octave lower if you can't sing in the original key. So let's cover each of these. So option 1, transpose to a new key and play the chord shapes for that new key. So if the notes are too high to sing, then we transpose down a key to see if you can sing the highest note in the song. And you just keep transposing down and repeating until you can finally sing the highest notes in the song and you play the new shape. But if you don't know the chord shapes, what you can do is transpose down one more, or keep transposing down until you finally get to one of the keys that you do know. So let's work through an example. The song Forever Young, Rod Stewart, that song is in the key of A. And hint, a song is most likely going to start with and end with the chord that is in the key. So if it starts with and ends with an A, it's most likely going to be in the A key of A. And then you can use an app, like I use Ultimate Guitar. And Ultimate Guitar, you can find the song Forever Young, and then you can click on the transpose button. If you transpose minus, that means going down. and play the new chords to see if you can sing the highest notes. But G sharp isn't a real common guitar key, so you may want to transpose twice to go from A to D sharp. One more would be G, and that way you get to the G chord, and G chord is a common chord on the guitar. So that allows you to transpose from A down to a chord pattern that I know to G and play two notes lower than the original key. Option 2 is to transpose to a key that you know and then use a capo to get back to the desired or original key. So let's do this. Take Me Home Country Road, that's another song that's an A. And there are two notes between A and G, so I transpose down 2 just like you did just a minute ago. And I can play in G. But maybe if I want to play in G sharp, I could actually use a capo. If I want to play in the original key, I place the capo on the 2nd fret. If I want to go down just one frame, I can place the capo on the 1st fret and have just one step down. And maybe that's enough for me to be able to sing the highest notes. Option 3 is to sing an octave lower than the chord that you're playing. So an octave is 12 steps down from the chord being played, and may also transpose the key to get something that's closer than the original. So if I play in this C up here in the right hand octave, but I'm singing in the octave below, and that can work pretty well, but sometimes it can be quite far. So instead I can play C, and if I move to the 4th fret, I'm actually moving up to the key of E, and I could still sing an octave lower in the key of E.